Good afternoon. Welcome to the second episode of You're the Voice. My name's Lisa Bentley and I'm your host. I work as a positive mental health therapist, and today we have two new guests. We have a mother of 4 children, and we have a gentleman who has also had to deal with his own challenges throughout the pandemic. I hope you enjoy this episode and thank you for watching. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for joining me. This is Darren. He works in the corporate sector in organisation development, and he's happy to come along today and have a chat about his challenges and struggles throughout the last 18 months during the pandemic. And I really appreciate you being here on our second episode, Darren.
Privileged to be here and with your listeners.
Thank you. So I guess the first place to start is what are your feelings at the moment in terms of people struggling and some challenges that have been happening around you with the vaccine mandate, for example?
Yeah, I'm definitely watching closely, and I'm well connected with a number of people that are, facing this front on. So I'm really concerned for them. I'm concerned for everyone, really, in the entire state and beyond. So, I'm seeing people having a high level of stress with things their employers doing, like quite a high level of stress, which they don't deserve. And, I know 2 resignations actually already.
Really? 2 resignations?
Yeah, I know 2 already,
over the last
directly.
couple of weeks, or is this something that's been in?
No, now since all this debacle in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, and what industries were they in? Can you tell me?
In technical engineering industries.
Okay.
So I don't know, I just feel bad for the people that are in that boat where they're not in a situation where they're financially, rolling in it. Like people have got mortgages and kids and families to feed, and they're not all up for a fight with their employer either. So I think it's just a really awful situation for people to find that they're kind of getting told, like, you have to have the vaccine to continue your livelihood.
It sounds almost like you think there might be some real internal conflict going on for some people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we've seen this because we've seen nurses speak out that they're not comfortable administering to people who are saying, I actually don't want this. So they're getting it whilst conflicted.
The nurses or the patients? Yeah. So the nurses speaking out, what do you think they're thinking and feeling about the vaccine rollout recently in Victoria?
Well, just from the ones I've seen, they're seeing that this goes against their principles and the ethics in their training. Like they've come from a profession that is all about informed consent, which is what the immunisation handbook practices in Australia. And they find that here they are not really, administering a vaccine under informed consent. They know that they're giving it because the people have been coerced. So, of course, those nurses giving the vaccine are feeling bad now.
Yeah. Do you think that the nurses think everyone who they're giving the vaccine to is being coerced, or it's only some people feel they're being coerced and some people feel that it's necessary to protect them? What is your overall feeling of that, Darren?
Look, I'm just going by the nurses that we've heard speak out, and they're going by what people have said, like that they're actually telling the nurses, I don't want this, actually. And some of them are crying because, and I heard this from someone today, like some of them are just crying, like they feel like they're, just getting completely violated by this vaccine against their wishes.
So the
So it's not
people that
right.
the nurses are actually injecting the vaccine in into their arms, they're actually ending up in tears. Is that what you're
Yeah, I've heard
saying?
that today, that there are some who have been in tears because they're so much not wanting it and they're not seeing a way out.
Wow, that's a real internal conflict, isn't it, in terms of their values and the fact that they really don't want it and they're forcing themselves to take it.
Just terrible. Like, when I can't imagine what kind of human would put someone else in that position. It's just, it's irky,
Yeah, yeah,
just not right.
yeah.
Mm,
I agree with you. It doesn't feel right. And in our lifetime, we've never known this kind of, medical apartheid that is going on, you know.
mm,
Um,
mm,
what about your own personal situation, Darren?
mm. Um, Look, I'm thinking more of others right in the immediate, and because I'm working from home, like I've been quite, I think, the most fortunate in this whole saga, in
Yeah.
that I've been able to work from home and continue normal hours and keep a
So you,
roof over my head and all of that. So,
so you feel
you
fortunate in
know,
terms of being able to continue with your work and earn a living from home, and that sort of suits you for now.
for now, but even that is limited because of these mandates coming. So, there's definitely a suggestion has come in industry that there'll be a time when they want to see people in the office, and at the same time mandating a condition that we never signed up for. So, my situation's good for now, but I don't know how long that will last. And, I've certainly got friends and family members who are basically facing, at the moment, get the poison by the 15th. And in fact, one of my family members' employers has said, you'll be facing termination without severance pay. That's in writing to them. So they've now
Wow.
got, you know, what is it, 8 days to take a vaccine under threat of losing their job and severance pay.
Wow. That's
Like, what employer would do that?
that is so harsh, isn't it? And considering how long you've been employed for, your loyalty to that company and how hard you've worked and everything you've given them, that they can just turn around and be
Mm,
so cutthroat with this
mm.
is is inhuman almost, isn't it?
Mm. Well, I think, talking to a colleague today, I think this has really opened up people's eyes to the level of integrity of the companies they work for and the people at the top.
Yeah.
Like, they've really thought, gee, if this company can just treat me like this and I've been dedicated for all of this time, then there is no loyalty to the employees at all.
Yeah.
And where we thought there was loyalty, people have, I think, had a bit of a shock to go, you know what, this company's just treating me like a disposable product.
Well, that's one way, very, very visual way of putting it. Disposable product. I'm sure people don't want to be feeling like they're a disposable product,
Mm,
Darren.
mm, no.
So it
So,
sounds like,
wrong.
no, sorry, I was just going to say, it sounds like from what you're telling us right now about the stories you've heard and the coercion and the manipulation and the emotional blackmail, that's what it seems like to me that is going on
Mm,
right
mm,
now, is something that you don't agree with on a values and moral perspective, Darren. But I also am hearing
mm.
you tell me that you're not for the vaccine. Are you willing to share that with us, or you'd rather not talk about that? That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think two things on that. So I'll come to that second,
Yep.
because the first priority for me on the vaccine is that we have a freedom of choice.
Yes.
So that is, to
Pro-choice.
me, kind of a level above will I or will I not take the vaccine? Like, what is the society we want to live in?
That's
So
right.
to me, that's my primary drive. Me personally, no. I'm quite a logical and cautious person. So, and I really value my health and do things for that. So, I'm
Well, you
not
look like a very
interested.
healthy young man.
Yes, people think I'm, 10 years younger than I am. So I'll take that. But yeah, like I just have no interest in taking an experimental vaccine with no long-term safety data. But most of all, with my health and demographic, I don't feel at risk. So, why would I risk an untried vaccine when I'm not at risk of a virus?
Yeah, I understand your
So,
point of view. I understand your
just,
viewpoint, Darren. And the thing that gets to me sometimes is that the world is being divided between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, particularly here in Victoria. I almost feel
mm,
like it's the clean and unclean, and it
mm,
seems
mm, mm,
really discriminatory, and
mm,
divisive and polarizing for people. And I think it's kind of sad because it comes under your individual medical decisions that you make with your doctor. It's no one's business but you and your doctor. Why
mm.
has all of a sudden our medical health become the priority of the government over a virus that has a 99.97% survival, I believe, last time I looked?
Mm. So just what was your question
So
embedded there?
I'm wondering why our personal medical decisions that are
Mm,
normally done through our
mm.
GP, in terms of our own health and our health history and what's right for every individual, is now become the business of our state government, basically, who are
Oh, yeah. It's
mandating.
just bizarre.
Yeah,
Truly, truly bizarre. And when you think we don't go around asking people if they've had an STI check or what contraception they take or are they infectious of something, and
exactly.
can go and buy alcohol and cigarettes as an essential, apparently. And we don't restrict unhealthy food to people, even though it's clearly unhealthy food in every supermarket.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. And
it,
cigarettes and all other sorts of things that are unhealthy, sugars, and all of
mm,
a sudden, we've got this big brother government looking over and, using what I feel a draconian, authoritarian approach to our
mm,
medical health decisions, which is not
mm.
any of their business
No,
because of this virus.
no. And as far as I'm concerned, the fear of totalitarianism way outweighs the fear of what is mainly a mild virus for most people.
And it's interesting that
So,
you mentioned the word fear because, coming from a psychological perspective, I think what started out to be what seems to be right now, based on some evidence, biological warfare, is turned into psychological warfare
yes, yes,
based
yeah,
on the fear mongering and the
mm,
fact that people are living in feeling petrified that
mm,
they're going to get this virus, and if they get this virus, they're going to die, basically.
mm, mm,
Do you think that's the reality, though,
yeah,
for most people? If they get this
yeah, I
virus, they're
do.
going to die? No, but
Yeah,
do you
I
think
really
that if
think.
they get this virus, they will die? Like, do you think that's
Oh
the
well, no,
reality?
no,
No.
I don't think it's the reality. Um, but many do feel it's the reality for them. They've been so traumatized by the constant propaganda and TV images that I think they're really kind of hypnotized in a way.
Mm. Yeah, well, and that's where that psychological warfare really comes in. I feel like the messages and the coercion and the pushing, to me, it almost feels like
Mm.
drug pushing.
It is. I think it's abuse on the public. And I think the media and others have committed trauma on the public. Actually, they've traumatised the public, and in the most evil way.
Yeah.
And I was just maybe one of many exceptions. Right at the beginning, I noticed a lot of emotional tension in this at the beginning last year, a lot of hype. And I just thought to myself, because I've got a bit of a numbers background as well. And I just thought to myself, you know what, this is a time to just not get too carried away and look at the data. If it's a true pandemic, we need to keep calm to make rational decisions. But the opposite has happened in the main.
Well, I agree with you, particularly here in Victoria. The opposite has happened. There's been no rationality, no proportionality. It's like COVID-19 and vaccines is the only thing that exists in terms of issues in the world right now. And I'm sorry, but there are many more that people are not focused on, like mental health. And the numbers that you see in terms of what's on, the nightly news report, or what's on, in the Herald Sun, I think pale in comparison to the true numbers of people suffering right now, particularly in the most lockdown state in the world, Darren.
Oh, completely. I think this is one of the hypnotic things, is that people are focused just on one virus. And it's odd, because when we mention things like 340 youth a week getting admitted to emergency for self-harm, people seem to think, well, that's okay because we've got to worry about the virus. So it's like these seriously bad things that happen just get discounted.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fathom it.
No, and this is the thing, and this is why I started this program. This is why I started You're the Voice last week. It's something that I had been thinking about a really long time, and I thought this is the time to do it, because we need to highlight how mental health has become a consequence of the pandemic, and it's on the back burner to physical health. And for me, and something that I started to hashtag recently also, is take care of your mental health first. Without your mental health, what other reason do you have to get up in the morning?
Yeah,
What are you
absolutely.
surviving for? And to put mental health on the back burner to a virus that has a 99.97% survival rate under the guise of health, yet we all know it's a political football for all the states in the world, not just Australia. All the politicians in the world have been using it pretty much as a political football, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Humble.
And so many other things going on. And since when was a virus such a big political thing?
Yeah.
So, people must ask, well, what's really going on? Hopefully they start asking what's really going on.
Yeah, hopefully they do. I think sadly, most people are just waiting it out and hoping that things will go back to normal. Do you think things will go back to normal, Darren?
No, look, in my view, I'm quite clear on this. When we say normal, we will never have what we had before. So I think all of us can erase that. That's the past. We can't go back to the past. We've been through something which we cannot undo. So in my mind, Lisa, there's only two options. We either go to something better than before or worse than before. And I think it's up to the public to really go, hang on, what are we moving toward here? We need to create something that was better than we had before, way better. And I don't think we realised the problems that were there before, but we're realising them now.
I know that you obviously have realised it, and I think I realised it a long time ago too, what was really going on in terms of how this thing has changed the world, and for want of a better word, basically the world's gone crazy since COVID hit it. And it makes you wonder about our other way of life and what real freedom and democracy means.
Well, I think this is a challenge because, and I've noticed this professionally as well, but how can we create something better if we cannot envisage what it looks like? Because we thought we had it good before. So I think a slightly unusual challenge for us now is to really, in our minds, envisage what could be heaps better than we ever had before. Because we have to go to better, or it will be worse.
And that's the thing. Another reason why I wanted to start You're the Voice is to hopefully project out some hope into the world, because hope and optimism is also something that will keep us going and moving forward, particularly parents like myself who don't just think about ourselves now, it's about our children and our grandchildren, in future years. And that's what we do when you become a parent. It doesn't become about you anymore, it becomes about them. So I think it's really important that moving forward, we need to have hope, but we also need to feel that hope and stop living in fear, because to me, fear is the real epidemic that we've got right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, it's played upon because we know from a neurological perspective that when we've got that fear attached to us, that actually reduces our most rational, logical capacities for thought and creative thinking.
Yep.
So it's it's a dangerous emotion in a way.
It sounds like you know what you're talking about, Darren. I want to thank you for your time and for coming on our second program of You're the Voice. And I appreciate your sharing and your being open with the audience.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And just wish you well with the program and hearing what's going on for people.
Thank you very much. Take care, Darren.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kelly.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for being a part of our second show on You're the Voice this week. I know that things haven't been easy over the last 18 months with you or with anybody in terms of the challenges we've all had to face. Just to introduce you, I know you have 4 children and you work very hard to support them. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your journey over the last 18 months, and particularly just these last few months in terms of the mandated vaccines and how that's affected your work and your family life, please?
Okay, Lisa. Yeah, hi. So, yes, I'm a mum. I've got 4 children. 3 live at home with me and 1 lives away from home. He's been living away from home for about 2.5 years now. So that's been a struggle for us with the lockdowns as lockdowns got more restrictive. We had, kilometres where we weren't allowed to go out of. I was unable to see my son for quite a few months because he wasn't in a kilometre range. His sisters weren't able to see their brother. From going to living with him full time to not being able to see him for quite a long time was really hard for them. He is a very big, important male figure in their lives, and it took a toll. I think it took a toll on all of us. The fact that on top of that, then taken away from family that they were used to seeing quite regularly. We're very close to my cousins and their children, and that was an impact. And then on top of that, it started affecting them even worse when schools were closing down and unable to see friends. I've got a daughter that's currently studying year 12.
Wow.
So now I feel like she's done her final 2 years in lockdown, her most important years.
And how is that
Towards it.
affecting her well-being in terms of her natural development, in her younger teenage years, and particularly going through her VCE at a time that already can be stressful?
Um, I think obviously without the help of your teacher being in a classroom environment and being able to get first-hand help, I think that has affected her grades most definitely. She's a very high achieving student. She's always been a really good student. She's always studied, and she's always put in the hard work. I've never had a problem with her with school, put it that way. She's always strived really to get good marks and strive to get, to do well.
Yeah.
She's not a disruptive student. She's quite quiet. And it got to a point this year that we were discussing whether or not she was going to be able to complete the year, to be honest. It's been a struggle for her.
Well, that must have been difficult.
Well, it is. It's really difficult. And then there's no outlet to that even. You can't go and talk to your friends about how you're feeling and or play sports, which was great for her. Also get a bit of that pent up energy out and stress and anxiety. So it was just a lot of stress that was just piled on top of her. And to be honest, also the workload was quite large. I found that she was studying and had a lot more tasks and assignments to be done than I'd ever known of before. Even she would say, there was no time to get on top of it. Like within your school system, your teachers are in a classroom, and having to have that time spent with a student individually, where here they're just on a Zoom meeting for a little while. Otherwise, the workload is just continuing.
So it sounds to me that they don't actually have any real contingency plans in place for students who are used to more one-on-one teaching style to help them get through their academic tasks. Is that what you're saying, Callie?
Not at all. Even if not at all, yes, exactly. If you are an essential worker, your child can attend the school, but they also are attending at that school and attending classes via a Zoom class, not actually with a physical teacher there. So when you've got a student that, well, and there's plenty of them out there, I'm guessing, that doesn't learn well via, Zoom meeting or Google Classroom, that needs that one-on-one interaction, it's difficult. It's very difficult. But the workload I found also was a lot. Like, she's basically out of school, is finished school now. She's got SACs to do and her exams are coming up, and yet still is given assignments that she may have missed during the year sometime. I don't understand that. There's already enough stress on her to study for exams.
Yeah.
And they keep loading it on.
Sorry, to interrupt. It sounds like her well-being and her mental health is being almost, double the stress on top of the stuff that naturally she would have had in terms of doing her VCE, her natural study load, and the pressure that VCE exams bring on young people, she's had to also deal with the fact that she hasn't felt comfortable learning on a what sounds like a technology screen sort of environment rather than a more personal one-on-one teaching environment that naturally students are used to.
Exactly right. Exactly right. They've been pushed to the limits, absolutely pushed to the limits, and without any relief or release to help them get over that. Usually, when you're stressed at school, you have your outlet, your release of sport, or you go out with your friends on the weekend, and you go back on that Monday with a fresh mind. That's not happening at the moment. She's lucky though that she does work. She works, so she's able to get out of the house for that purpose. Um,
So she has got
so
an outlet of work, so she's not
she has
always, yeah, yeah,
so she's not always at home, which is really, really good for her also.
yeah.
And luckily also that she's got her sisters here with her to give her some company. Though she does have sisters and they are struggling also. She's got a younger sister who has started high school in 2020. So she went to a new school yes, 2020 last year was her first year of year 7. I think she spent a few weeks at school before our first lockdown began. Then we were in lockdown for a few weeks and then back to school. As you know, it went up and down like a roller coaster last year. So her first year of high school was, to say terrible is an understatement. It was a
Very
really hard.
challenging.
It was an exceptional challenge. We moved suburb. She moved from her friends that she had been in kindergarten with and through to the end of grade 6 with. I thought it was going to be a wonderful new start for our family, and was happy for her to start at a school that was a local school, have some friends in the area, and it was very short-lived. So it was a real struggle for her throughout that year to
Make connections.
make connections within that school, because you had children from other local schools that have known them, each other for quite a while. And it wasn't just that; it was the change of school, the change of teachers. Matilda was very well known and a very popular student at her other school. She's going into school; she doesn't know any of the teachers at all. She's a newbie,
Yeah,
entirely,
yeah,
and she really struggled with that. The fact that she couldn't or wasn't really given the chance to bond with the teachers throughout the year
yeah.
was a struggle. And fitting into a new school, um, and it's a small school. It didn't have a very large amount of number of year 7 students, which I thought was a great thing. But in retrospect, when you're trying to fit in and people already have close knit bonds with friends from previous schoolings, then yeah, it's a lot harder.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you
we
think that
rely,
sorry to interrupt, Callie. Do you think that the lockdowns made it more difficult for your daughter to connect with people at this new school, or that it wouldn't have made a difference?
most definitely made a difference, made a huge difference. Luckily, within the first few months, she did make a couple of connections with 2 girls in particular that she had to sort of hold on to for when the times that they were able to go back to school. But outside of those couple of friends, um, the connections with other students was just too hard. And mainly the connections with the teachers. I think that really is more important, because you rely on those people to turn to when you're feeling, at a place, or if you're not, having the best time of it. But if you don't feel comfortable or you don't know them, that well, she's not going to be able to turn to them. And I found that that probably was one of her biggest struggles with that school. They were very supportive. She saw her out year 7 in there at that school, and we were very hopeful for year 8 that we were going to have a new year. Um, and we started off well, but as soon as the lockdowns went into place again, it certainly went downhill
So
again.
it sounds
And
like, yeah. So it sounds like she took a few steps forward at some stage during the year at this new school when she was kind of in and out of lockdown, creating connections and getting used to that new school environment. But then she went 10 steps backwards again when she was put into lockdown again. And I think that's a struggle in terms of quite a lot of young people with going back to school, reconnecting with people, trying to feel that normal, friendship that young people get at school. It's all fun and games, and then they're disconnected again. And this is why we have a mental health issue with young people, particularly in Victoria right now. Can I ask
well, that's
you?
right.
Yeah. Can I ask you? So what I'm hearing is, as a mother, a lot of your struggles, a lot of your challenges have been due to watching your children go through their struggles because of the pandemic.
Most definitely. Yeah, I've been lucky myself to be able to work, which has kept me sane, I must say. But watching them struggle through a life that should be, a lot easier than this for them. In particular, because we had moved areas and there was a kilometre radius that you couldn't, go out of. Matilda's friends were in a different area than us now, so it was hard for her to see anybody. And same with my other daughters, all of their friends were from another area that was out of our zoning. And so they were, even when you could do the 1 hour walk and catch up with friends, they didn't have that because their friends were in a different area. So they were completely closed off. And without her going to school and being able to make those bonds every day when you see, that another student at school, then you make that stronger bond. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
And then that breeds other issues.
Yeah.
So on top of that, I now have a daughter that is seeing a counsellor every week. And we're having to go further than that right now because it's not, there's no sort of joy or happiness or anything to look forward to. She started a new school mid this year, because things were so hard at the other school, just trying to fit in socially.
Yeah.
So we started her a new school, in term, so around just before our lockdown in March.
Yep.
And she was fitting into that school really nicely and started to show some, progress. And then here we are again. And I have to say that it's not helpful. It's not been a great last 3 months, 4 months since May. Since our last lockdown has been a struggle, and it's hard to try and keep any positivity in them.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Kelly. It sounds really difficult for you and your daughters right now. And it also sounds like just when your daughter makes progress, she's kind of ripped away from that happiness that she finally found in her new school and her new friendship groups was once again ripped away from her at the previous previous lockdown. So, and now it's been, I don't know how many weeks, 6, 7 weeks of lockdown, people losing count. And it sounds like, it's very hard for her to hold on to any sort of hope when nothing's really changed in that space at the moment.
Well, exactly. I've tried to keep them positive by giving them, the words of what we're being told. Let's get vaccinated is the big thing now. Let's get to 70% vaccinated, and we can resume some sort of a bit of a normal life. And then that comes along, and it's changed dramatically again. And then, we're being told constantly things are going to change. We're going to be opening up, and then it doesn't happen. So my words to them, my bit of positivity is on deaf ears now, because I have nothing more to give them either. I no longer trust in what we're being told. I don't. So therefore, I'm finding it myself very hard to keep positive for them as well.
Do you think that your situation, in terms of the struggles that you've gone through, the struggles that your daughters have gone through, and the, the false hope that it sounds like you've been given, is an exception to the rule when it comes to most families? Or do you think a lot of people are going through this and sort of suffering in silence?
I know for a fact most people are going through this and suffering in silence. There's no other way to do it. I mean, we can protest and try to get our voice out there and stand up for our rights. And that is thrown back at us with fake media news of outbreaks of coronavirus. Then we have social media that is slamming, vaccinations in our face and causing divides within society now. And I think that anybody with a view that is not towards
Favourable,
wanting
favourable.
yeah, that's a good word to use, favourable to what we're being led to
Government
believe,
mandates, yeah.
then we shouldn't have a voice anymore. It's definitely not fair. Like, is completing year 12 this year. No celebration for them. Their valedictory dinner has been cancelled. Or maybe in December they might have a celebration if most of the students are vaccinated. So
what you're telling me is the school I've decided to divide the students, pardon me, between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. Is that what you're saying?
I can't tell you most definitely that, but that is the word at the moment. That
Okay.
if you are a fully vaccinated student, that you'll be able to attend these things. If you are not, then you probably most likely won't be able to attend.
And can
Now,
I
to
ask
me,
you, how does your daughter in year 12 feel about the vaccination? Is she opposed to it, or is she supportive of it?
she doesn't really have a strong opinion for or against, in the fact of the thing that she feels most strongly about is her choice. She feels like she would have it, but she's wondering why it is being forced upon her. So
Okay.
you could say that she has a few questions about why they want to enforce a vaccine upon her if she's young, healthy, and has every chance of, if getting corona, surviving it and probably not getting very ill herself. So she doesn't really want to be forced to have it. If she's stopped unable to go to work, then she definitely says she will have it then.
Okay.
But
So
that's being forced.
can you tell me how do you define, or how does your daughter define force? Like, what do you mean by force? Because at this point in time, the understanding of it is you're not being forced. You're being encouraged to get the
Okay. So
vaccination.
you're so well, for one thing, at the moment it's not happening. But what it has caused her is a lot of anxiety. A few weeks ago, there was talk about Year 12 students having to be vaccinated before they could sit their exams. Now,
Right.
for a student that's already stressing enough about upcoming exams and not having the support, not for, not on blame of the teachers, just because of the situation that we're in at the moment, is already stressful enough. And then being told on top of that, if you're not vaccinated, you can't sit your exams. If you're not vaccinated, you can't attend your graduation. If you're not vaccinated, you can no longer work. If you're not vaccinated, you can't go and see your family and friends. If you're not vaccinated, you can't live your life, basically. So this is what we're being told by social media. This is what's out there. This is
Right.
stressful, causing anxiety. So for her, she feels like, if I don't have these vaccinations, I can't live a life any longer. I can't travel. I can't see my cousins. I can't see my friends. So in her eyes, that is being forced.
Okay. So she's feeling
Doesn't have it.
forced.
She's feeling the pressure.
The pressure and force. And that is the real tragedy here. Young people feeling the pressure that they can't live their young lives unless
Mhm.
they take a medicine that they don't want or need.
Exactly right. My older daughter has had the vaccination. She had it because she needed to for work purposes. Otherwise, she probably would not have had it herself either. I myself have had my vaccination, and my purpose was also, well, my purpose wasn't for work particularly. It was at the time to have the numbers boosted so that it wasn't enforced upon my children. Though these rules keep being changed, and the numbers of the vaccinated that they it started at 16, now it's down to 12 years old, and that's okay. If it's your choice, then by all means go ahead and have that vaccination for yourself, but it should be your choice. It
Yes.
shouldn't be on you from
Yes.
anybody else. Now, if I said to my daughter, go and have the vaccination, then she would probably most likely do that. But I'm her mother. She trusts me and what I say to her, because her interests and health are in my best interest, and she knows that.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me right now, is the fact that the vaccinations are not only causing stress upon these young children, and not just young children, adults that are having to have it, even they don't want to continue working. But it's not, it's the divide that this virus is causing at the moment in our society. And I no longer feel like my children live in the society that we used to live in, that was carefree, easygoing, and a friendly, caring society. People are turning against each other.
Mm.
Like I, I've never witnessed. the most horrible things on social media before. I fear for my children
So you feel
and their
like
futures.
that this coercion to get the jab basically is
Mhm.
causing negativity and causing a, a divide in terms of between, you know, for want of another word, the clean and the unclean. And that almost is like discrimination, which interestingly enough is something that, you know, politicians and governments have been trying to drive for years, in terms of not discriminating. Like, you know, the messages are there's no more discrimination. You're not allowed to use politically incorrect language to discriminate against people due to colour, creed, culture, political, persuasion, sex, whatever. And now, all of a sudden, this virus has entered into our world, and it seems like discrimination is accepted. Question, I question what that means for our society moving forward, Callie.
You couldn't have said it any better. We had to change a name of a cheese and lollies, rightfully so, because they were discriminatory. But now, if you're not fully vaccinated, you don't have a right to go and see your family. You can't go to a concert. You might not be able to enter a store or a supermarket or a workplace.
Wow. And this is what,
And the thing is that people are so readily available to support this. What they're not understanding, though, is you're supporting something that you're having put in place for the future of your children. This is setting up discrimination in every other way, shape, and form. Because if you can discriminate against somebody because they haven't had a vaccine, if you think they're not, then other discriminative things aren't going to come along with that, then you're really mistaken. It is disgusting. It's some of the things that I have read. I just think, please think of the person that you were before this virus came along, and would you wish those harms and horrible things against somebody before this?
yeah,
Uh,
you do understand
Humanity
that,
has gone out the door
yeah,
in
you
most people.
understand that virile discriminatory treatment that people are dishing out to people based on their health choices, which is between should be between them and their doctor, is
Hmm.
coming from a place of fear. So not only are we dealing with a virus, but we're also dealing with psychological warfare, which seems to me the government are using to gain more and more power over the people.
Right. Most definitely, but it's look.
It's okay.
I don't want to put myself down here, but I'm not an overly educated person.
Okay.
But I can see and use my own common sense when dealing and navigating through life. And if you use your own common sense, like we always have learned in the past, that when you are sick or if there is a flu going around, you look after yourself. If you're a parent, then yes, you're responsible for looking after your child. Never before have we ever been able to be so involved in other people's lives that we have had a say about whether or not someone else's child should have a vaccination, or someone else's child should wear a mask, or someone else should have to wear a mask, or stay away from people, or be allowed medical help if they get sick or not because they choose not to have a vaccination. Never once before in all the unfortunate deaths that we've had in the many years before the last 2 years of flu viruses that no longer exist? Have we ever been told that we can't enter a store unless we have the flu shot every year? I've had one flu shot many years ago, was very sick from that flu shot and never had it again. I've never been refused entry to a store. I haven't had people say to me, well, I'm sorry, but I don't want to speak to you anymore because you don't get the flu vaccine. But all of a sudden, there's a virus where the last time I looked, the survival rate was a lot higher than the unfortunate deaths that we're having. And yes, they're unfortunate. And I don't wish that upon anybody. But why are we in this state?
So what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say, Kelly, is where is the proportionality at the moment in terms of the issues as a society we have, even without the virus? It seems like the only thing that's being highlighted, every single day on mainstream news channels, as well as daily press conferences, 11 o'clock, everyone knows Daniel Andrews in Victoria, is this virus and the numbers of people that have it and the numbers of people who are getting vaccine. Yet, as a society, we are dealing with other issues and challenges which are being swept under the carpet, and nobody's willing to talk about it because we're all afraid of COVID.
I'm not afraid of COVID. I'm afraid of I'm afraid of COVID, yes. I'm afraid of not the disease, not the virus itself. I'm afraid of what it's allowing our government to do to us.
So what you're afraid of is the consequences, which is something that I've been aware of from the very beginning, that the consequences of these lockdowns, the draconian policies that our government has put into place, far, far outweigh the actual health risks of the virus itself, which has a 99.97 survival rate. Last time
it's obvious. We are the only state in the whole entire world to be locked down like this. No lives are important, obviously. Yeah. When they say we're doing this for the greater good, we're doing this to save lives, no, they're not. They're not, because if they actually reported on the amount of suicides that have been present since last year, people would start to understand that it far outweighs the unfortunate deaths of COVID. With COVID, I should say, with COVID, not of COVID, which they've finally been had to rename now. But that doesn't matter anymore. People don't care about that anymore. Oh, well, children are committing suicide. Oh, well, adults losing their livelihoods and taking their own. That doesn't matter, because it's not happening, obviously. All that's happening at the moment is that we've got a deadly virus that if you breathe on somebody too closely, you're going to drop dead. Okay. Yeah, look, I'm not buying that anymore. I bought it for the first lockdown. I did what I had to do. I wore my mask. I did everything that I was told to do to flatten the curve. And then it just seemed that as time was going on, common sense sort of kicked in, and I'm thinking, it doesn't make sense. The longer we're locked down for, the more the cases are rising.
And the more misery it is causing, the more underlying issues.
Yes, underlying issues, exactly right.
That nobody talks about, and that's what this program's about. It's about getting your voices heard, getting them understood, making a noise and making them clear, Kelly.
Exactly right. Well, my main I think my main issue is with people and compassion.
Yeah.
Compassion.
It's all about and humanity. Humanity. Where has
Just
humanity
for
gone?
yourself, look after yourself and support those around you that have a different view to you. It's not a big thing. They're not doing it
Monsters?
all. Yeah, that's right. They're not wanting to not have a vaccination to hurt you personally. It's because of their own choice.
Hmm.
Just accept that and
Yep.
move on kindly. There's no need for the harsh, hateful words. I'm talking about people wishing those that don't get vaccinated to get sick and then not be able to access medical help.
Mm. Yep.
Wishing for people that have a different point of view to actually get COVID and die.
Oh my gosh, that's just
I
terrible.
mean,
That's
I don't read
horrible.
it anymore.
Yeah.
I stay away from it. I scroll past. I can't read it any longer. It really did get me going there for quite a while. I was consumed with the hatred and it was depressing and I no longer go there. I've got a child that's suffering enough
Yeah.
and I need to focus
That's
on
right.
her. And I need just for us to stand together
Yep.
and stand up for what is rightfully ours, and that is the freedom to live our lives without being restricted to seeing our loved ones and our friends.
Yep. And it's what our forefathers and our ancestors fought for in World War One and World War Two. It's known as democracy and freedom. Freedom of
Yes.
choice. And I agree with you 100%, Kelly. We have to say goodbye now because we have gone a little bit over time. I am
Sorry.
very grateful for you sharing your story today with You're the Voice program. And I wish you and your family well and
Thank you,
keep
Lisa.
doing what you're doing and keep focusing on what matters most, Kelly, which is smiling, breathing, enjoying the fresh air, getting lots of sunshine, and living your life with meaning and purpose.
Thank you, Lisa, and please keep up the good work. I'm really happy that you're doing this and you're giving us, the people, a platform to speak on. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.